Okay, let's get one thing straight. November's midterm elections was a good night for the Democratic Party. However, by just looking at these maps and the overall results, it might be hard to come to that same conclusion. Looking at the raw numbers, Democrats lost 9 House seats, losing their very slim majority, but they did gain 2 governor's mansions as well as 1 Senate seat. So just by looking at these numbers, it seems like a very meh election, and if anything, Democrats should be the one crying in the corner as they lost the House of Representatives.
Emotional damage!
Anyways, so why are Democrats happy with these results? In simple terms, it's because they were expected to do a lot worse. That's because what you've got to understand about midterm elections, especially the one right after a new president has taken office, is that midterm elections are not very kind to the party in power, especially the one holding the White House. That is because to get into these positions, parties in power often have to promise huge things, and when they do not deliver immediately, people take their frustration out on the polls, and that's why the parties in power usually don't fare so well the next election. You can see this with the past 4 presidents. Don't worry, this trend goes all the way back. I thought I could just fit 4 presidents on this slide. So with the exception of George W. Bush, as you can see, the president's party has lost tremendous power in the first midterm election of the new president's term. And for a while, it was expected that Joe Biden will be no different. Don't get me wrong, Joe Biden is not a popular president. Around the time of the elections, he had just a 40% approval rating, and people were mad at him about many issues such as high inflation and high gas prices. In comparison, around the same time, 12 years ago, Barack Obama had a 45% approval rating when Democrats lost 63 House seats. This was back in 2010. Because of all these factors, Republicans were dreaming of a red wave that would sweep the House and Senate, giving them majorities in both houses. Yeah, that didn't really go as planned. Anyways, let's go through one by one. Let's start with the House of Representatives. Republicans gained 9 seats, giving them the majority. However, they were expected to flip between 10 and almost as high as 40 House seats. So you can understand why only gaining 9 is pretty disappointing. Not only that, but that only gives them a 9-seat majority over their Democratic colleagues in the House, which isn't good for the Republican agenda, because if only a few members step out of line, that means if they want to block pieces of legislation that Democrats want to pass, they could quite easily fail. Okay, on to the Senate. So Republicans, at least very hopeful ones, were expecting the red wave would carry on to the Senate and they would take hold and gain a majority. However, not only did that not happen, they actually lost a Senate seat in Pennsylvania. But in order to get that majority, Republicans were largely targeting these 4 states, including Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and New Hampshire. As you can see, they failed in all of them, and all of them ended up voting for their Democratic Senate candidate. For governor's races, Republicans are a bit happier as they did flip the battleground state of Nevada. However, they lost 3 governor's mansions in Arizona, Maryland, and Massachusetts, meaning they had a net loss of 2 states. In the governor's elections, they were hoping to flip Oregon, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and New York, as well as successfully flipping Nevada, but they did lose a very close race in Arizona that they were hoping to hold. Anyway, so why exactly did this Republican red wave fail? And yes, why is Mitch McConnell getting depression over not being Senate Majority Leader? A lot of experts have their own theories on why this red wave didn't turn out as much as expected, but you see, I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure Republicans have to thank Trump for their failures. You see, during the Republican primary, Trump showed off just how much control he had over the Republican Party. That's because he was so popular among Republicans that candidates hoping to get nominated would say anything to try to impress him. And once he did give his official endorsement to one of them, they were almost guaranteed to get nominated. As an example, just look at the Ohio Republican Senate primary. Before his endorsement, J.D. Vance was polling in the middle of the pack of the crowded Republican field. However, once Trump gave his support to him, as you can see, his poll numbers skyrocketed and he ended up winning the nomination. So that's how you ended up having a bunch of election-denying, Trump-endorsed Republicans running in huge battleground races. For governor, Trump-endorsed candidates were nominated in the battleground states of Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. What's also important to note is that the state governor has a tremendous amount of influence in certifying the state's electoral votes for presidential elections. So that's very interesting that Trump wanted to have a hand in these races. The story was similar in the Senate. Trump-endorsed candidates appeared on the ballot in the battleground states of Nevada, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona. MAGA Republicans also appeared on the ballot in local elections, such as for the House, as well as statewide positions such as Secretary of State and Attorney General. As you can see, Trump's MAGA blueprints were all over this country. However, still with these pretty extreme candidates, Republicans were confident that they would be able to do well, as Trump, they thought, would still be pretty popular around the nation. Yeah, well, that didn't really go to or according to plan, didn't it? That's because all of these MAGA Trump-endorsed Republicans in these battleground states almost always lost. The 8 mentioned here, which were nominated in races key to establishing a Republican majority at the state level as well as in the Senate, all lost. This brings me to one of the biggest reasons experts agree that Democrats did so well is because voters preferred them over extreme election-denying Trump-endorsed Republicans. Yeah, it turns out Americans don't really like extremist politicians. Anyways, yeah, right now you can find most Republicans crying in the corner instead of the Democrats doing that. However, some are reasonably optimistic as they see a glimmer of hope through all of this madness in this chaotic midterm elections, especially for them. That small glimmer for Republicans is none other than Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. DeSantis and Trump were once former allies, but now they seem to be in a dead heat for control over the Republican Party. DeSantis, for the last couple of years, has been a rising star in Republican politics and has long been a candidate for anti-Trump Republicans to run against Trump in the upcoming presidential election. So, after seeing Trump's MAGA Republican candidates all get defeated, it is a very good sign for the DeSantis wing of the Republican Party. Mix that in with the fact that he won overwhelmingly in the supposed battleground state of Florida for his governor position, it only increases his popularity among Republicans. Also, in this race, he proved that Republicans can indeed appeal to a majority of Latino voters, a base that Trump has struggled to gain support. Anyways, as you can see, though DeSantis has informally announced his presidential campaign, in many polls you can see Republicans, sometimes even a majority of Republicans, prefer DeSantis over Trump, who they see is too extreme for them and has failed to win key elections. So you can say that the winners of the 22 midterms are Ron DeSantis, Democrats, and anti-Trump Republicans, while the losers are Donald Trump and the far-right MAGA wing of the Republican Party, which basically made up 90% of the Republican Party before the rise of Ron DeSantis. Anyways, I feel that this video has gone on too long. I probably should have made it more simplified, but yeah, I've been recording this for too long, and yeah, that's it. Bye-bye.